He's Thundarr, I'm E-Lightning, and welcome to Sports Storm. Today we will be doing way too early college football playoff predictions. Go.
Alright, so obviously we're way too far away to make any real predictions. We don't even know the starting rosters for teams yet and the recruiting. But based on today's knowledge of where teams stand, I'm going to start with my teams 5, 6, and 7. At 7 I have Alabama. I feel like even though they're Alabama, they dominated last year, they're losing so much in the draft. And they keep going through quarterbacks. They're losing Derrick Henry. I feel like their offense really was Derrick Henry and that's it. And that they have good running backs.
They have that Ridley.
Yeah, but I don't think Ridley's going to lead them to a championship. A receiver doesn't take teams. You either need to have a really good passing game with multiple receivers and a good quarterback, or a really good run game. And I'm not sure if they're going to be able to develop that really good run game, so I put them at number 7. And at number 6 might come to a surprise, but I got Washington Huskies. They only finished 7-5 or 8-4 this year, except they have a very promising starting quarterback, and almost their entire team is returning in kind of a weaker division in the Pac-12. And I feel like they could definitely make a run. They have a favorable schedule, so I have them there at 6. And at number 5, in the group of 5, Houston. They have almost everyone coming back from a 13-1 season. Greg Ward Jr. is up for Heisman contention. Tom Herman's one of the better coaches in college football. So that might come to a surprise to people, but they got Oklahoma at home. So I feel like if they can go undefeated, beat Oklahoma, and then Oklahoma wins the SEC, I think that gets them in. But
SEC.
That wins the Big 12. I keep messing up words. All right. But obviously, you now know that I don't have Oklahoma in my top 4 because that means they would have won the Big 12, and I would have inserted Houston into there instead of Oklahoma. But now at 4, I have Ole Miss. That I know they lost Laquan Treadwell and some major talent like Nikem Duche and Laramie Tunsil, except they're getting one of the best offensive tackle in the draft, and they're also getting lots of receiver talent through recruiting, and they're keeping their starting quarterback Chad Kelly, who I also think is one of the favorites to win Heisman. And they also get Alabama at home, who they beat in the last 2 years, and I think Alabama will be a weaker team, and I think that Ole Miss will kind of get that SEC title with an 11-1 record. I'm not sure who they're going to lose to, but I feel like they'll make the playoff. And at number 3, my Big 12 team, Baylor. Did you guys see how well Baylor played this season? They were undefeated, and then they had their starting quarterback get injured, and they still won a couple games. And then
they lost to Texas. They lost to Texas.
Yeah, they were on their third-string quarterback.
And they lost to Texas.
No, and then he got hurt, and they were taking direct snaps half the game. So I think that Texas loss doesn't really mean anything. I feel like they're so banged up, and almost their entire team is returning. Seth Russell's coming back, and I just feel like Baylor's going to be a legit contender next year. I see them playing the exact same way. And at number 2 out of the Big Ten, Michigan, I feel like...
at number 2. That's your hometown bias.
Hey, at least I didn't put him at number 1. I see Jim Harbaugh is such a great coach. You got almost your...
Great coach, but he's not... They're not going to be the number 2. You see, I have them at number 4, not number 2.
Does it really matter? All that matters is who you play. As long as you're in the playoff, it doesn't matter. All right?
They're not going to be the 2 seed, though. They're going to have at least one loss.
So you can have one loss and be a 2 seed. So I have Michigan in there. They have almost their entire team returning on offense, except for Jake Rudock. And
who you would already say is the GOAT. Shut up.
Okay, no.
Yeah.
No. But they also have a transfer coming in who I see being the next Baker Mayfield next year, John O'Korn. He won Freshman of the Year in the American Conference with Houston. And their defense is obviously a top 5 defense in the country. But then, the number 1 team here might surprise you, Pac-12 champion Oregon. That they have a much better, they have a much better quarterback in than Vernon Adams with Dakota Prukop, who came, I think Montana State transfer, except he's better than Vernon Adams was. He's like 6'4". Vernon Adams was like 5'7", so he can actually like throw balls over defenders. And Oregon, the only reason they lost a couple of games this year was because Vernon Adams was hurt. And if Vernon Adams isn't hurt, you could see Oregon possibly being in the playoff this year. So I just feel like they got Brady Hoke now as their defensive coordinator. He had a great defense with Michigan. And I feel like Oregon is the best team in the country. Well, not right entering, but I feel like they will be at the end of the season.
All right, so me, at number 7, I got LSU. I feel like there'll be a lot of hype, and they'll like get back up there to like number 4, number 3 in the country. But then they'll realize they have no passing attack.
Yeah, I mean,
and go back, and they're all Leonard Fournette.
Yeah.
At number 6, I have Alabama, and as for all the reasons you stated, they have a really good receiver, and they'll always have good players. But I think like in another 2 years they'll be back to the national championship level that Nick Saban is always at.
Yeah.
And then at number 5, just on the outside looking in, I have Ohio State.
Yeah, I was about to say it's going to be Ohio State.
Because they're going to be good and all cocky and stuff, and they're going to lose to, like, Michigan State or Michigan most likely and be out of it. But they'll still go really well. But that'll be their awakening, and they'll discover themselves too late.
Yeah.
Right?
Kind of like how they did this year.
Yeah. And then at number 4, you already know because I talked about it with him, I have Michigan. And I think they're good, and Jim Harbaugh is an absolute great coach. But I don't see their offense being – I mean, they have good receivers and everything, but they're not going to – I don't think they're going to win the championship. But they will get in as a 4 seed.
All right.
At number 3, I have Ole Miss. And I see them again winning the SEC, and because they can beat everybody there. The only reason they weren't doing well is because they lost to Arkansas on a fluke play.
Yeah, well, they lost to Arkansas, who lost to Toledo, and then they also lost to Memphis, who didn't look that good against Auburn. So
well, yeah, but
I
they'll be back in a big way.
The
only player they're losing that's really good is Nkemdiche and Laquan Treadwell.
Yeah, but I know I'm bashing my Ole Miss pick, but you could also make a case to win the SEC, Tennessee. I know.
And at number 2.
Wait just a second. Let me finish my point. I feel like Tennessee always gets all this hype before every season, except last year they came in with a sophomore quarterback who didn't even have that impressive of a freshman season. But this season they had a very impressive season. Joshua Dobbs had a very impressive season, and I feel like, I mean, they had so many close losses. They barely lost to Oklahoma, and they barely lost to Alabama.
Tennessee will not do well. It's Ole Miss all the way.
Shut
up.
All right.
And at number 2, I'm going to go with a really surprising pick here. I'm going to go with Utah. So, hear me out. So, you know how they got as high as almost in playoff, right, last year? They're returning a lot of people, and that defense swallows up people. Dude, just imagine, like, all the chaos that can happen in that conference, dude. If they somehow come out of it, like, unscarred or with one loss, that would really boost them up.
Yeah. Dude, but they're losing Devontae Booker, their best player.
Dude, that's because you lose their best player doesn't mean you're completely out of contention.
Yeah.
Technically, Ole Miss is losing their best player in Laquan Treadwell. And
that's what you said about Alabama.
They're losing like 4 of their best players.
Whatever.
They're losing like almost their entire defense.
All right, who's your number 1?
All right, and at number 1 in the nation, I have Clemson again.
Yeah,
They're all going to play with chips on their shoulders, and I know they're losing their 2-star DNs.
Yeah, but they still got Deshaun Watson.
And Deshaun Watson is like, get a little spoiler, is by Heisman pick.
Yeah.
Or one of the Heisman candidates. I
forgot.
He is at another level. He's basically Russell Wilson, except you can throw the ball a little bit better.
Yeah.
Did you see him in that championship game? He got no help and almost single-handedly won the game. I can see him coming in there with a chip on his shoulder and just ball it out to get them into the 1st seed.
Yeah, I forgot to include an ACC team, so I'd probably actually knock Washington down to 7. And actually, I'd probably have Florida State up above Clemson. I just feel like
Dalvin Cook is amazing.
Exactly. Florida State was so close this year that they friggin' lost to Georgia Tech on a blocked field goal return for a touchdown. Other than that, they'd be 10-2. They'd be yeah, they'd be 11-1, and then they'd obviously lose that game to Houston. But they have basically their entire team returning, other than Jalen Ramsey and a couple other players.
Jalen Ramsey is great, though.
And not to give away a spoiler, but Dalvin Cook is my Heisman pick. And I feel like if they can finally settle on a quarterback, they kept going back between Everett Golston and whatever that other guy's name was. But they're
not going to be, dude. Clemson is not going to be at a whole nother level. But I just feel like in all college football, Dalvin Cook can run all over people, but that Clemson defense is still good. And with Dabo Swinney leading them, they're going to be able to not bottle him up per se, but instead of, going for like 150 and like 3 touchdowns, he only gets like 101 touchdowns.
Well, but
and that could be the difference. And even though they have one starting, I just don't see Florida State. I mean, they'll be good, but they're not good enough to win the ACC.
See, I feel like Florida State, to me, is going to be kind of like Alabama was this year. Not quite as dominant as they were, but I feel like they're...
Alabama wasn't even dominant, though. Like, of course, they're national champions, but, like, literally, they lost to Ole Miss. It was, like, one of the only ranked...
Did you watch the semifinal game? Did you even...
I did. Oh, dude, did you watch the final game? They dominated a really good Clemson team. They were good. I'm just saying, their legitimacy last season was not that good. So what are you talking about, their dominance?
They didn't dominate Clemson, but they dominated Michigan State.
Yeah, they did.
I'm
not going to deny that.
They dominated all these teams, and I think they were obviously the best team in the country. They won the...
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, at like midpoint in the season, you could legitimately question their goodness.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But I feel like Nick Saban always comes in the clutch. But I feel like Florida State at this moment is one of the... I feel like they'd easily be a...
And with your Oregon pick, dude, I honestly don't see him being that good. First of all, Brady Hoke is not a good coach.
He's a good defensive coordinator, though. Michigan had a good defense, but they did not have a good offense. He could not develop players. As a defensive coordinator, you do not need to do that. You just need to draw up plays.
And also, dude,
recognize.
Other than like that quarterback that you say is coming in, they have almost no other weapon. I mean, isn't their running back leaving, that Marshall dude?
No, but they got Royce Freeman.
Dude,
he's also a
their best running back.
No, their best running back's staying. He's a sophomore.
No, dude, that the Marshall dude is leaving. He was their best running back. Did you not see that?
No, Royce Freeman.
He's like the number 2 dude.
No.
He's like the number 4 running back on Matt Miller's big board.
Whatever. All right. That's it today for this Sports Center. It was kind of an exciting one. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.